It's nothing, really. I didn't plan to say this. It's not a big moment. I'm not trying to make it one. I just noticed something a while ago, actually, and I've been carrying it around in my pocket like a small stone, turning it over without meaning to. My love, I discovered something about you. And after that, nothing felt the same, not in a dramatic way. Not like the sky split open or anything like that. It was quieter, softer, almost easy to miss. It happened in one of those ordinary moments. You were standing by the window, I think, or maybe it was the kitchen. I keep replaying it, and the details blur, but the feeling doesn't. You were talking, not about anything important, just something small. And you laughed, but not the way you do when everyone's watching. It was the other laugh, the one that slips out before you can stop it. And I saw you, not the version you hand to the world, not the careful one, just you, unarmored, unaware, existing without trying. I don't know why that was the moment. I've known you, I've touched your hands, listened to your stories, watched you fall asleep. But that second, it felt like discovering a hidden room in a house I thought I understood. And ever since then, when I look at you, I feel it. That quiet shift, like the ground tilted just slightly and I had to adjust my balance. You don't even know you did anything. You didn't change. You're still you, still moving through the day, still saying my name the same way. But something in me, it softened or opened. I'm not sure which. It's strange because nothing about our life is different. The same cups on the table, the same late nights, the same silence when we're both too tired to speak. And yet there's this undercurrent now, like I'm aware of a deeper current beneath everything we say. I keep wanting to tell you, and then I stop. Because saying it out loud makes it feel fragile, and I don't want to disturb it. It's just that when I realized who you are beneath all of it, the small hesitations, the kindness you try to hide, the way you look away when you're moved, I understood something about love that I hadn't before. And since then, when you reach for my hand, when you lean your head against me without thinking, I feel like I'm standing in that hidden room again, and I'm still not sure what to do with the fact that it exists. See, don't even think you noticed. I wasn't looking for anything. I wasn't studying you or trying to understand you better. It wasn't one of those intense cinematic pauses where everything sharpens and the world falls away. It was ordinary, soft around the edges, almost forgettable. You were just there, and I was there too, but not in any deliberate way. I wasn't bracing myself to feel something. I wasn't asking for revelation. I think that's why it reached me the way it did. It slipped past whatever defenses I didn't even know I had. You were doing something small. I can't even fully remember what. Moving around the room, adjusting your sleeve. Maybe you were speaking, maybe you were quiet. The details blur every time I try to pin them down. But the feeling doesn't blur. It stays intact. It stays close. I saw you without trying to. And it wasn't about how you looked. Not really. It was the way you existed in that moment. Unmanaged, not performing, not shaping yourself for anyone's comfort. There was no angle to it, no awareness, just you in your own space, breathing the same air as me. I think what struck me was the absence of effort. You weren't trying to be understood. You weren't asking to be admired. You weren't reaching for approval. You were just there. And somehow that felt more intimate than any touch we've shared. It caught me off guard. I remember feeling something shift in my chest, but I didn't name it. I still haven't. Naming it feels too final, too neat. And this wasn't neat. It was quiet and a little unsettling, like noticing a door in a hallway you've walked 100 times and realizing it was always there. You've always been there. I've always looked at you. I know the curve of your shoulder, the sound your voice makes when you're tired, the way your hands move when you're explaining something you care about. None of that was new, and yet this was different. It wasn't about knowing you. It was about seeing you when I wasn't trying to know anything at all. I wasn't prepared. Maybe that's what made it honest. There was no intention in my gaze, no agenda. I wasn't gathering information or confirming what I already believed about you. I just happened to look up at the exact moment your guard was down, though I don't even think you had a guard up. It was simpler than that. You were unobserved, or at least you thought you were, and in that unguarded space I felt something soften inside me. Not dramatically, not in a way that made me gasp or reach for you. It was smaller, like a quiet acknowledgement, like my heart exhaled without telling me first. I keep replaying it, but every time I do, it slips through my fingers. The more I try to reconstruct it, the less clear it becomes. I can't rebuild the scene. I can't frame it properly. All I can hold on to is the sense that I crossed some invisible threshold without realizing I was moving. After that, I started noticing other things. The way you pause before answering certain questions, the way you look down when you're choosing your words carefully, the softness in your expression when you think no one is paying attention. I had seen these things before, I'm sure, but I hadn't felt them. There's a difference. Before, I observed you the way we observe people we love, with affection, with familiarity. But now it feels like I'm aware of the space around you too, the quiet you carry, the parts of you that don't ask to be understood, and I don't want to disturb that. Sometimes when you're talking, I find myself drifting back to that first moment, not because I'm distracted, but because I'm remembering how it felt to see you without intention. It's like I'm trying not to interfere with whatever that was, trying not to look too directly. I don't want to turn it into something. It wasn't grand. It wasn't life-changing in the way stories describe. There were no declarations, no internal monologues about destiny, just a subtle shift, a quiet awareness that you are more than the sum of the ways I've learned to recognize you, and that realization hasn't stopped unfolding. It's strange because nothing about you changed. You still move through the day the same way. You still tease me, still fall silent when you're thinking, still reach for my hand absent-mindedly, but I feel like I'm touching something deeper now, even in the smallest gestures. When your fingers brush mine, I remember that moment. When you turn away to look at something outside the window, I remember. It's not that I'm comparing everything to it. It's more like it opened a layer I didn't know was there. And I'm careful with it. I don't want to over explain it to myself. I don't want to analyze it until it disappears. It feels delicate, not fragile in a breakable way, more like something alive that doesn't like being stared at too long. So I let it sit inside me. I let it echo quietly when you're not looking. I let it soften the way I listen to you. Sometimes I think you can sense it, the way I hold my gaze a second longer than before. But maybe that's just me imagining things. I keep thinking about how accidental it was, how I wasn't trying to see you more clearly. And maybe that's what love does when it's real. It stops demanding clarity. It stops asking for proof. It just notices. And in noticing, something opens. I don't know exactly what I discovered about you in that moment. That's the part that stays just out of reach. It wasn't a fact. It wasn't a trait. It wasn't a revelation I could summarize. It was more like recognizing the depth of a quiet you've always carried, the way you exist even when no one is watching, the way your presence fills a room without asking for space. I saw you without trying to, and ever since I've been aware of how easily I could miss you, again if I'm not careful. Not miss you physically, you're right here, but miss that unguarded stillness, that simple being. So sometimes I look at you and I try not to look too hard. I try to let you exist without turning you into something I understand. Because the moment I saw you without trying to, it felt like standing at the edge of something I'm still not ready to name. And I'm still standing there, I think, still looking, still not trying to. Still, I don't think I knew how to. I'm not even sure I fully understood it myself. It wasn't loud. It wasn't the kind of change that demands attention. It was smaller than that, quieter. Like when the light in a room turns warmer because the sun has moved and you don't notice until everything feels different. You were right there, nothing unusual. We were in the middle of an ordinary day. You said something, I can't remember what, and I answered the way I always do. We kept moving through the hours the way we always have, but somewhere in between your voice and my reply, something inside me leaned closer. I didn't tell you. I kept nodding, kept smiling, kept existing beside you as if the ground hadn't adjusted beneath my feet. It wasn't dramatic. I didn't feel like I was falling. It was more like I had been standing one way for a long time. And suddenly my body understood a new balance, and I let it happen without naming it. I think I was afraid that if I spoke, it would turn into something solid. And this wasn't solid. It was fluid. It moved through me like a quiet current, changing the temperature of everything without altering the shape. You reached for my hand later, just casually, not to make a point, not to say anything. Your fingers found mine the way they always do, like they belong there. And I remember thinking, this feels different. Not better, not bigger, just deeper, like there was more space inside the same gesture. I didn't tell you that either. I don't know when it started. Maybe it had. Deep been building for a while, and I only became aware of it that day. Maybe it was always there, waiting for me to notice. I replay moments sometimes, trying to locate the exact second. But it resists that kind of precision. It wasn't an event, it was a soft rearranging. The way I look at you has changed. I don't mean I stare longer, though maybe I do. I mean that when I see you now, there's an awareness behind it, a recognition that feels almost tender in its hesitation, as if I'm careful not to disturb something fragile, even though nothing about you feels breakable. You move through the room and I feel it, that quiet shift. It hums beneath the surface of everything, your laughter, your silences, the way you tilt your head when you're listening. None of those things are new. I've known them, I've loved them, but now they land differently. There's weight in them, not heavy weight, just presence. And I carry it quietly. Sometimes I almost say something. The words rise up, not grand words, not declarations, just a simple admission that something inside me isn't where it used to be. But then you look at me the way you always have, steady and open, and I hesitate because you haven't shifted. Or maybe you have, and I just don't know it. I don't want to project my own movement onto you. I don't want to turn this into a story with a beginning and an end. It doesn't feel like that. It feels ongoing, like a subtle tide that keeps brushing the same shore. I keep thinking about how natural it felt. There was no resistance, no internal debate. One day I was standing in one place inside myself, and then I wasn't, and you didn't even know you were making coffee, or tying your shoe, or looking at something on your phone. The ordinary details blur, but the sensation remains. That sense that I was suddenly closer to you without physically moving, closer in a way that doesn't need proof. I wonder if you felt it too. That almost imperceptible narrowing of space between us. Not the space we can measure, the other kind. The invisible one that holds all the unsaid things. I've started noticing how often I want to protect your quiet, not from anything specific, just from the noise of the world. I feel more aware of the way you carry yourself through it, gently even when you pretend not, to be gentle. That's part of it, I think. The gentleness, the parts of you that aren't loud but are constant. Something in me responded to that. It answered without speaking, and since then, even when we sit in silence, there's this undercurrent, like I'm listening to something beneath our words. Sometimes I catch myself studying the way your chest rises and falls when you're relaxed, and I feel that shift again. That subtle reorientation. It hasn't stopped. It hasn't escalated either. It just continues. A steady awareness. I didn't tell you because I didn't want to change it by observing it too directly. It feels like when you watch a wild animal too closely and it disappears into the trees. I want this to stay, not captured. Just present. There are moments when I almost miss the simplicity of before, when love felt clear and definable. Now it feels wider, less contained, harder to describe without reducing it, and I don't want to reduce it. You deserve something truer than my attempt to summarize. So I sit beside you and let the shift exist quietly between us. I answer your questions. I tell you about my day. I laugh at the same things, but underneath there's this steady awareness that I'm not standing in the same emotional place I was before. I'm closer to something, or maybe closer to you, or maybe closer to myself when I'm with you. I don't know, that's the part I haven't solved, and maybe I don't need to. It feels enough to recognize that something moved, something softened and settled at the same time. When you lean against me, I feel it most clearly, not because the contact is new, but because my understanding of it is. Your weight against my shoulder feels like trust. It always did, but now it also feels like something entrusted to me, and I hold it carefully. I didn't tell you because I was afraid of making it sound bigger than it is. It isn't fireworks. It isn't revelation. It's a quiet turning of the heart toward you, again and again, in slightly deeper ways. A subtle choosing, and I don't even know if choosing is the right word. It feels less active than that, more like gravity. I just know that something shifted, and I didn't tell you. I'm still not telling you, not fully. I'm circling it now, letting the edges show. Maybe that's enough. Maybe you can hear it in the spaces between what I'm saying, not like a secret exactly, more like something small and warm that fits in the palm of my hand. I don't show it to anyone. I don't even hold it up to the light very often. I just keep it with me. You wouldn't know it's there. We wake up, we move through the day. You talk about the ordinary things, what you need to do, what you forgot, what you're thinking about. I answer. I listen. I touch your shoulder when I pass by. On the surface, nothing has changed. If anything, we look the same as we always have. But inside, I've been carrying this. It started so quietly, I almost missed it. And then it stayed. That's how I knew it mattered. Not because it was loud or urgent, but because it didn't fade. It settled into me. It found a place to rest. Sometimes when you're not looking, I feel it more clearly. When you're tying your shoes, when you're focused on something across the room, when your face softens because you think you're alone for a second. I watch you and there's this gentle pressure in my chest, not heavy, just present. I've been holding that feeling without asking it to explain itself. It would be easy to turn it into words that sound complete. To say, This is what it means. This is what changed. This is where we're going. But that would feel like forcing a shape onto something that doesn't want edges. So I let it stay undefined. You reach for me sometimes without thinking. Your hand finds mine in the dark. Your shoulder leans into me while we're standing in line somewhere. Those moments used to feel natural. They still do. But now there's something underneath them, a kind of quiet awareness that I don't mention. As if every small touch is echoing something larger, I've been carrying that echo. It follows me even when you're not in the room. I'll be doing something simple, washing a dish, answering a message, standing at a window, and suddenly I feel it again, that soft recognition, that almost imperceptible shift that happened and never shifted back. I don't know if you feel it too. Maybe you do, in your own way. Maybe you've been carrying something quietly as well. Or maybe this is just mine, a private adjustment of the heart that doesn't require announcement. There's something intimate about not saying it, about letting it live in the space between us without naming it. When I look at you now, there's a tenderness that surprises me, not because I didn't love you before. I did. I do. It's just deeper in a way that doesn't draw attention to itself. It's steady, and I've been careful with it. Careful not to turn it into expectation. Careful not to let it demand anything from you. It doesn't ask you to change. It doesn't ask for reassurance. It just exists. A quiet undercurrent beneath our conversations about groceries and schedules and tired evenings. You'll say something ordinary, and I'll nod, but inside I'm thinking about how your voice feels when it fills the room, how it settles into me, how even your pauses have texture now. I've been noticing things I used to pass over, the way you blink slowly when you're trying to understand something, the way your mouth curves slightly before you laugh, like the laugh is deciding whether to arrive, the way you exhale when you sit down after a long day. None of these are revelations. They're small, almost invisible, but together they form this quiet landscape I've been walking through alone. And I don't feel lonely in it. That's the strange part. It doesn't feel isolating to carry this by myself. It feels protective, like I'm guarding something delicate, even though it's not fragile. It's strong in its softness. Sometimes I wonder what would happen if I told you, if I said something shifted in me and I've been holding it close ever since. Would it change the way you look at me? Would it make you search my face for signs of something more? I don't want you to search. I want you to remain as you are, unaware of the exact weight of what I'm carrying, but still somehow connected to it. Because even though I haven't said it, I think you feel it in other ways. In the way I linger a second longer before letting go of your hand. In the way I listen more carefully when you're speaking about something small. I've been carrying this quietly ever since, and it has made me gentler. Not visibly. I don't think anyone else would notice. But inside, I feel softer around you. Less certain in a good way. More willing to let moments stretch without filling them. When we sit together without talking, I don't rush to break the silence. I let it breathe. I let us exist inside it. Because the thing I'm carrying seems to grow in quiet spaces. It doesn't thrive in noise. It's strange how something so subtle can feel so present. It doesn't demand attention, but it colors everything. Even disagreements feel different now. Even distance feels different. There's a thread running beneath it all, steady and almost invisible, and I hold that thread gently. I don't pull on it. I don't test its strength. I just know it's there. Sometimes at night, when you're asleep beside me, I watch the rise and fall of your chest and I feel it again. That quiet shift that never shifted back. That awareness that loving you has moved into a deeper room inside me. I don't try to map that room. I just stand in it. I've been carrying this quietly ever since, and maybe I always will. Not because I'm hiding it, but because it feels sacred in its silence, like something that loses its warmth if exposed to too much air. You don't have to know the details. You don't have to understand the exact shape of it. It's enough that you're here, that you keep being yourself in all the unguarded ways you don't even realize. And I'll keep holding this small, steady warmth inside my chest. I'll keep letting it guide the way I look at you, the way I touch you, the way I stay.